Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Duke Ong with Tri-City Equity Group. Today we have Jamie Gruber and Benoit Malige on the show. We represent the Honolulu chapter of their Multifamily and More network of meetup groups. And with me is my co-host, Vince Giddings.
Hey, Duke. Thanks for having me back on as your co-host. This episode's really awesome. We get to sit down with Jamie and Benoit, the people that started the Multifamily and More movement. It's an awesome organization. Proud to be part of it, running the Honolulu chapter. And this show is going to be outstanding for our listeners. Definitely some key takeaways in terms of building partnerships and leveraging human capital. Also, some great stuff on out-of-state investing as well.
Jamie Gruber and Benoit Malige are the founders of the Multifamily and More group of networking communities. They currently have 18 chapters across 15 states with over 7,000 members. They own and operate more than 50 total units and run the Multifamily and More YouTube channel with guests like Brandon Turner, Jay Scott, Rod Cleef, and many more. Jamie and Ben, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Super grateful to be here. This is exciting.
All right. So how did you two meet and form that partnership? Like, what did that look like?
We met through the Wilbur Profits Academy. It has to be somewhere in something like 2 years now, right? 2 years ago?
Yep, 2 years.
What the story was, I think I just did my credibility book and put it up there just for verification and feedback. And Jamie was one of the person to reach out to me. We jumped on a phone call and things just clicked.
The sparks started flying.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there were flowers and daisies around each of us. He was the only guy that, like, it was pretty small back then. I don't know when you guys joined, but when we joined, it was probably like 100 people. It wasn't that big.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the only Michigan guy that lived in Michigan physically that I knew of at the time anyway. And Ben posted about investing in Michigan. So I was like, wow, let me talk to this dude. And here we are 2 years later, married.
Yeah, the story was I was working for a turnkey company at the time operating in Detroit, but I was always living in, well, not always, but I was living at the time, I'm still living in South Florida. So I needed someone over there and he just needed me. He didn't know it yet.
Nice.
Nice. All right. So I guess we'll take this one at a time, but Jamie, how did you get started in your journey to earn passive cash flow?
Accidentally. So 2005-ish, I bought a house to live in, had to move a couple of years later, couldn't sell it, and voila, I was a landlord. So that was the beginnings of it, but I didn't really look at it that way. I hated it. I hated having this property after I moved for my job to another city, and didn't really get it until about 7-8 years later when I reread Rich Dad Poor Dad and realized, oh yeah, this whole passive income thing is probably a good idea. And oh, by the way, I have a property, so let me kind of convert that to an asset, both mentally as well as from a cash flow perspective. And then we sought to purchase more. My wife and I, that is at the time, grabbed a couple duplexes that were pretty inexpensive. We bird them, and then we started to go down the path of multifamily, which led me to this sexy Frenchman over here. So that was the beginnings for me. It was sort of by mistake that I became an investor.
Got it. And Ben, how did you get started?
I got started, for me, it was not by mistake. It was by frustration. I was working for someone, I had been working for someone for quite a while, and I was just frustrated to depend on someone else paying, my salary. And so like I said, I was working for a turnkey company operating in Detroit. So I had access to a lot of deals. It was mostly single family homes. And I just pulled the trigger and said, let me, try and get one for me. And I got a few of those. And, it was exciting. All of a sudden, you have this money coming in and you're not really doing much. And then I realized I should just go bigger and better. So we looked at the multifamily side of things, and that's when I joined the academy and met up with Jamie. And
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned the being frustrated working for somebody else. I actually have that quote on my vision board I'm looking at right now. It says, "Build your own dreams, or someone else will hire you to build theirs." So that's pretty sobering
so
when
Yep.
you're constantly reminded of that.
Yeah.
Fact. So
I think so. Yeah, I think that, I mean, this show is about like passive income. So I think there's three ways basically that you can build passive income, and it kind of ties up to what you were saying just now. It's either you're going to give money to someone and trust that they're going to take good care of it. So obviously they're going to take a cut for managing your money, and that's going to reduce overall your passive return or income. I guess the second way would be to work on something, actively, like building a business, and then setting up people in place. So, in that scenario, you're going to have like fixed costs for someone to manage the money coming in, which is yours in the first place. So that cut's going to be a little bigger. And then the third option would be to set up a business that is meant to be passive from the beginning. So, this could be, for example, like a course or selling a course. The only way to do that is to sell the same product or the same thing over and over again. But same way, it's going to be, there's going to be some active work to do in the first place to setting this up. For example, if you want to sell a course, you're going to have to work hard on building credibility for people to want to buy this in the first place. So nothing is truly passive. I think there's always, a lot of work to do behind.
Yeah, it's like a scale of passivity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the credibility thing. You're right, Vince. It's there's a lot of stuff out there, but those that build credibility tend to win long term.
Yona Weiss just posted his post the other day. He's like the modern success strategy. It's like unsuccessful businessman. Make plan on teach people how to be successful. Be successful off them.
Yep,
exactly.
Yep. It's true.
Fun.
All right.
That seems to be the trending model. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for us though. We got Jake and Gino have our backs for us.
That's right. 100%.
So what is your why for building passive cash flow?
So for me, I go all around with this question. Like the easy why is time with family, right? Wife, kids, that whole thing. I mean, that's a why. But if I'm being truly honest with myself, that's great. And I want that. But the bigger why I think is maybe I get a little older or whatever, but it's becoming fulfilling my potential, right? Like, so there's this great quote from a movie, The Bronx Tale. You guys ever see A Bronx Tale?
Sounds familiar. That has, what's his name? The Raging Bull guy.
Yeah. Robert De Niro, Chaz Palminteri. And there's this great quote when he said, De Niro says to his son, or maybe it's the mob boss, whatever, but he says something like, there's nothing sadder in this life than wasted talent. And I think my bigger why is like, what am I capable of? I won't know unless I truly, put myself out there and push toward that next thing. So for me, that's becoming more of my why. I think I would have articulated my why simply as time with family and all that stuff. And again, I want that. I don't want to make it sound like I don't want my family around. But truly, selfishly or personally, it's about legacy, fulfilling potential, not wasting talent. So that's me. Ben, I can tell you right now, is just to make sure that I'm doing okay. That's his big why.
That's my why. No, I think it comes down to just time. We're always trading time for money, and the only way to not have to trade time for money is to have money coming in without spending time doing it. I apologize for that. And so it's just about getting more free time to do whatever it is you want to do. Spend time with family, travel, see your friends, or just sit by the pool and do nothing.
Train dogs not to bark during a podcast, or like those sorts of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the non-renewable resource, time.
True.
Yep.
So true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so tell me about the most recent deal that you've invested in.
You want to start, Ben, or is this me?
You can go ahead.
Me go? Okay.
Let's talk about Pinckney.
You want to talk about Pinckney? Okay.
Yeah.
I did a deal recently where I signed on as a small partner in a deal, but Ben and I, the last deal we did was about a year ago. And we purchased a 16-unit property in Pinckney, Michigan. And we've gone, I guess, a little over almost a year and a half ago at this point. It's crazy how time flies. We've gone in that time from, through a full reposition pretty much. Like, we don't have every unit turned to max rent, but we have every unit at the rent that we feel is appropriate given our plan. So you tell me, guys, I don't want to go too deep if you have questions on it, but how far would you want me and or Ben to go into the structure of this deal? And
You can go deep in it.
what it looks like? Okay. So when we purchased the property, we had an average rent of $578 per door. Again, 16-unit property, not a huge property, but our first. And it was, poorly managed, older owner. He and his wife, unfortunately, were ill. The deal was brought to us by a husband and wife that came to our meetup, this Multifamily and More meetup. And when we bought the property, we saw a ton of potential for rents. We saw a ton of potential for, just deferred maintenance being cleaned up. And, we executed a plan that we felt would get us to about $700 a month in rents. So about $122 more, which would push our valuation up by $300,000-$400,000 is where we saw it based on, prevailing cap rates in the area. But the interesting thing about that market is it's smaller. It's sort of, metro to Ann Arbor and a town called Brighton, which are larger, but there's not a lot of stock there to know what the true market rent should be. So we were being, we think, conservative and reasonable, saying 700, but every time we rented another unit out, it was like, well, that was easy. Let's push it $20 more and $20 more. So we're kind of at a point now where we our original rent plan was to get to 700, but now we're pushing more toward like 800 plus. And our current rents as they stand right now are in the 725, 730 range on average. So we've outperformed that with, about 10 or 11 of the units still with the original renters who were paying well below market, which was our original plan going in. We bumped them up to a level we thought was fair and reasonable to take them from, really low to like kind of in the middle of where market rent should be. And we still have a lot of those renters, but as we turn them, we can get significantly more rent for this property. So,
Right.
Ben, I don't know if I missed anything on that.
No, I think that was great. And to tie back to the whole discussion about passivity, we did a lot of work at the beginning. We self-managed because for one, we wanted to know how it was before giving it to someone else. Today, we've got, like Jamie said, we've got to the point where we're really comfortable with the rents we have. And it's stabilized. It's not to the full potential yet, but this is great because now all of a sudden we can give it to a property management company and make this, a lot more passive. Number two, we are having the rents that we have and we can now refinance, pull all the money that we had out. We're actually in the process of doing that. There's been a little slowdown due to the current situation. But this will allow us to, have even more room to grow once refinanced. So, eventually maybe in a year or two, we're going to be able to pull a little bit more money out of that. And at that point, it's going to be pretty much completely passive.
Yeah, it'll be our first deal that we've gone through the entire beginning to exit strategy, right? Like I've done that with some duplexes. Ben's done that with some single families. Like we've gone through and purchased a property, implemented a plan, refied out, or sold or whatever the case may be. But now my kids are screaming. But we've not gone through yet on a multifamily and fully executed that exit. And what I kind of like is we'll be executing that exit during COVID, which is where we're starting to see whether or not, some cap rates are expanding, some prices are coming down. And that's okay, because to me, that's it's going to prove to us and prove to future investors that we have that we have the ability to kind of go through this entire thing, not during all the sunshine and happiness of like 2010 to COVID, but even during the pandemic. So and I know you guys executed a deal as well, which is a ton of credibility in this time. So I'm kind of excited about that factor. That makes sense. Not that people are suffering with this whole COVID thing, but that, we've got a little bit of a roadblock that we're faced with. And, when we overcome it, it just gives us a little bit more grit moving forward.
So you mentioned your refinancing. So what kind of terms you looking to refinance? Like how does that exit look? And then what's your overall exit? Is it just refi and hold it, or like what's the game plan on that?
Refi and hold. And the terms we have right now, although there's a pause again, because the banks are all focused on PPP, we're 3.6%, 25 years with a 7-year term. No interest only, and there would be a prepay that we're okay with. I think we negotiated it down to 1%, or we could do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 step down, but we kind of like the 1%.
Yeah, that's way better.
Right. So that's the other thing, and it's prepay only if we refi outside of this bank. So
Yeah,
sale
okay.
would not trigger the prepay, and
Perfect.
refi with the bank would not trigger the prepay. And there is risk of that because on this first refi, it won't be agency. The next
Yeah.
refi could be agency, so we may risk that 1%, but in the long run, to take that off the balance sheets and have it fully non-recourse, it's just cost of doing business in our opinion.
And then with the 5 4 3 2 1 yield maintenance, it's like, what's that? You have to evaluate, like, what's that liquidity worth? What's that? That having that in your pocket to know that you could refi with only paying a 1% penalty in like 2 years from now, if you need to be liquid, and you need to get out. To me, having that, especially because real estate's already a not illiquid asset to begin with, and then throw high prepayment penalties on it, it just adds more risk to your equation. So being able to have that 1% across the board, I'd take that any day than a 5 4 3 2 1.
We'll do the numbers on it, right? So it's let's just say, like, at this first refi, we think it's going to be in the range of 1.2-ish. So let's say it's 1.5 in a couple of years. Just this thing snaps back, cap rates compress again, and the valuations go crazy, and we turn some units, we get our rents, whatever. Say it's 1.5. To your point, if in 2 years we need to be liquid, that's at the 3% mark or so for refi.
Yeah.
That's $45,000 or it's $15,000. That's a chunk, that's a big chunk of cash. So you're absolutely right on that. Sorry, Ben.
No, I think these are all great points. These terms are good terms, but they're even, for us, they're excellent terms because you have to, we know what we entered into this deal. Like we're going from a 6% interest rate original on the loan originally, right? Something like that.
Little under, yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you getting hit with the 12 months reserves or anything like that? Like the PI reserves or anything?
I think it's 6 months on the
Nice.
on the property. Yeah. Yep. On the principal and interest, property and interest, I said. On the principal and interest, right.
So 6 months. One thing maybe you can ask about, and we did the same for ours, was we got hit with 12 months PI up front. So it was like $75,000. I approached the bank and I asked them, it's going to be escrowed. What are our vehicles that we can put that money in escrow on? Is it just going to be a savings account, or can we put it in a CD? Can we put it in a money market account? Something that's generating some kind of return, as long as it's, it meets the liquidity requirements for the bank. And I was just throwing stuff at the wall to see what would stick, just because it's going to, it's hard to swallow $75,000 sitting in a savings account not working for you for a year. And they were completely open to it. They were like, yeah, like that, we don't see any problem with that, as long as if we need to cash it out and make it liquid again, it's still there. So that's what we ended up doing. So it might be something when you go back to the banks to start closing this deal, this refi, and they started asking for 6 months reserves. It's like, hey, can we put it in a some kind of interest bearing account, high interest account?
I hadn't thought of that. I'm learning how. That's a great point. Thank you for that, because that's that's the stuff we have to know going into this. But I'm learning so much about the relationship piece in commercial financing. So first off, we have the option of 80% loan to value on this. We've talked about 75 just to kind of keep it a little bit conservative. But I learned recently from another investor who just refied that he was looking to get a certain amount. It wasn't even 80%, but it was a dollar amount at refi that was above 75, but below 80, somewhere between the two. Mm-hmm. And initially they were good with it. COVID hits, they're not good with it. So in pushing back and having conversations with the broker and the bank, they cared what he was doing with the refi dollars. Like that mattered on whether or not he gets or doesn't get the full amount that he looked for. Like that wouldn't have occurred to me that they care, right? To them, I'm thinking it's just, this is the risk, this is the debt, but him wanting to place that money in another property was the difference between him getting the terms he wanted and not. So yeah, it's a great piece of advice, Vince, because the point you're making and what I just learned, and we're going to do a quick video on this soon that we'll post, is you have to leverage the relationship. Everything's on the table. Never split the difference, right? The whole mantra from the book, like make an offer, right? Because figure out what works best for you, and it's a relationship business. So good advice.
Yeah, it's business is about people, not just real estate, right?
Yep,
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. So speaking of COVID, how was your collections and how did your properties perform through all this?
That you or me?
It's both. I mean, we've been doing, very good. We're at 100% so far. In the I mean, for the multifamily, we've been blessed with having good tenants, I guess, and that, you know, a lot of times it comes back to how good you screen your tenants and the people that you put in your building in the first place. That's very important. So always keeping communication. So yeah.
Yeah, we've across our portfolio and a couple that I have outside of Ben and my partnership, we're collecting rents at 100%. And specific to the deal we talked about, to his point, our mix of tenants, you know, some intentional, some not intentional, is SSDI. So that helps, like elderly that are on a fixed income, so they get paid. There's nothing changed for them. Grocery workers and medical professionals. So you know, between all of those, like, you know, those are all businesses that are essential, and it's a learning for us on, you know, how many subsidized renters do we want to have, you know, how many renters do we want to have that are in essential services, and then how many renters do we want that aren't potentially, or that may be at risk. But yeah, we've been doing all right. So knock on wood.
Yeah. The other properties, and because there's a few single families as well in Cleveland, because I run a turnkey operation over there, and we manage about 200 units. And we've been at, you know, close to 93, something like that. We made the decision to do more and more Section 8 a few months prior, and that's been great. So yeah, this is another way to protect yourself in situations like this.
Yeah, definitely. That's like the perfect demographic mix right there with the subsidized and essential workers.
Yep.
So
yeah, we were talking. Duke and I were talking about a couple months ago as we were strategizing and everything like that. The onset of this was, you know, should we have a percentage of like units that we set aside for subsidized wherever they're getting their benefits from, and then we're like, well, if we were going to do it, let's just get it to match, you know, our debt service. So however many units would cover our debt service, you know, our pity. And then, you know, that would be how much units we set aside. And I think for us, when we did the math, I think it was like 13 units. So if we had 13 units that were always subsidized, we would never have to really worry about the mortgage payment not being made. Like we always had that fixed income.
Well, you're even taxes and insurance are including in that, it sounds like, as well, right?
Pity,
You're doing everything.
Yeah, the pity.
Wow.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah.
So
that's a good idea.
Yep.
That's a very good idea.
It's a good, great strategy. Great strategy.
Yeah, and you think about it, like Section 8's always the you know, it's never been the belle of the ball like it is now, right? Everybody would, you know, oh, I'm not doing any Section 8. Now everybody wants Section 8, but I've had a little bit of experience with Section 8, and what I learned from, and that's not in the property that Ben and I own together or the other that we have in multifamily, but a couple of duplexes, is there's a lot of renters. Well, first of all, you can screen. People think you can't.
you say you're still
Oh,
screening.
you should, the same way you screen.
Correct. There's a lot of people that flood you when you put up a property that's Section, like, you get a lot of potential applicants. And, you know, I think people think of, like, you know, whatever, gross, you know, out of work, you know, whatever. But there's single moms, right? Single moms who just want a safe place for their kids that are Section 8. They're good tenants. They're good people. You know, you're able to really do something for them. So you can screen down to, you know, what you really want in a tenant, which is, you know, clean, people that want clean, affordable housing, essentially. And you get a guaranteed check, sometimes above the market rents, depending on what the Section 8 voucher is in that area. So yeah, it's all of a sudden become the sexiest thing on earth. And I get why. Trust me, we're saying the same thing, but I think the lesson is diversify. I mean, even if you have some Airbnbs, I mean, that could be something. I hear some Airbnb people are making out like crazy right now because nurses and doctors and people that don't want to go home need long-term rentals. They don't want to go to a hotel. They're renting Airbnb. So if you're near a hospital, do you have a unit or two that's Airbnb if you have a large enough unit mix? So a lot to think about in this time. It forces you to really analyze your portfolio.
yeah, it just shows how real estate is hyper local, right?
Yeah,
1,000%. Great point, dude.
Absolutely.
it really is.
So what's the biggest mistake you made, and what have you learned from that?
I can talk from personal experience. Biggest mistake, made that mistake quite a number of times. Is trusting people that you don't necessarily know enough while doing business and in a different state, and it comes to bite you in the ass pretty quickly. And you know it always happens. So that would be my biggest mistake.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to play off of that, because this is what I love about my partnership with Ben. My biggest mistake, honestly, was not seeking partnership sooner. There was a lot of limiting beliefs for me that the reason for that. So I had to get my head right on, am I good enough to partner before I could? But what Ben just said, right? I was asked this question, like, what's your superpower? And my answer was extraordinary trust. And what I mean by that is I've put a lot of trust, like just naturally. It's just my DNA. It's not Ben's, right? I'm very trusting with even when something kind of burns down, it's like, okay, they've been revealed. I know what they are, and I move on from it. But I tend to go with the mindset of I'd rather trust and believe than not. So, and it served me for the 41 years of my life, but that's not Ben's experience. So you can see where, for us, when we're talking through anything from how we're managing the property to a specific tenant situation to what property we want to look at next, or even our Multifamily More brand, like what, decisions with the brand, he balances me out so well. Otherwise I would just go on like lollygag, like, woo, skipping happily with, just, yeah, you get this, you get that. I'll trust everybody. But Ben reins me back in. So not finding a strategic partner sooner, not looking for people that I can, when I do place trust that they have my back and I have theirs. That's probably the biggest mistake I made, was waiting too long to partner.
Interesting.
Isn't it though, Ben? Isn't it?
I'm siding with Ben on this one. I've been burned too many times by trusting too much.
You learn the lesson once you start losing money personally. Then the lessons are
we're losing deals.
Or deals, yeah.
Because you send somebody over to go, hey, I got this lead. Can you go check on it for me? And next thing I know, that person has it under contract.
Let's test this real quick. Duke, are you overly trusting?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I trust people, but not like overly. Like
you blew up my thing.
Yeah, I'm very much trust but verify, maybe, or I just don't trust anybody. I don't know.
I have a similar trust but verify philosophy. But
I think we all are to a degree. It's just, I think Ben's trust threshold is much lower than mine, I guess is the point. So like that's the balancing out where I can convince him sometimes to like, hey man, look, just what's the worst that can really happen here if we get burned? Think about the upside. He can rein me down. I'm like, hey, look, the upside isn't that great and the downside is pretty low. So why don't we, so that's the point. Like we can pull each other up or down as we see fit. So partnership to me is essential in my opinion. At least so.
I mean, we definitely had that kind of dialogue when we were negotiating on this last deal. Between Vince and I, just looking at the underwriting models and running different scenarios as far as best versus worst case and all that. So yeah, definitely agree on that being complementary and being able to see both sides of the situation and having multiple perspectives on it.
No doubt.
Especially when deal underwriting, you definitely want one of you guys to be devil's advocate and just be like, okay, this might look, the spreadsheet's saying this is all rainbows and unicorns, and then the other person's job is to poke holes, as many holes through that business plan as possible. That's how you get to effective conservative underwriting, because stuff's going to go wrong. It's never going to go as good as the spreadsheet says it is. So
right,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, especially when underwriting, your job is not to figure out how to make it work, is to figure out how to not make it work. And if you tried everything and it still works, then it's a potential good deal.
Exactly. Right on. So let's switch gears here. Moving on to, what do I got? Multifamily More. So you started this amazing thought leadership platform, which is the Multifamily More brand. I know a little bit how it got started. From what I know, you wanted to meet up. There wasn't one in Michigan in your area, so you started one. Next thing I know, I meet you in Orlando, right? And then you're like you have like this buzz about it, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I give you a call a couple months after that, and it's like just completely hockey stick into like this whole huge special thing that it is now. So let's go and talk about that, because I'm still unsure of how this whole thing happened. And now for everybody, I am also, Duke and I are also part of the Multifamily More. We run the Honolulu chapter, one of the 18 chapters of this Multifamily More thing. So let's tell us what this thing is, how it kind of blew up from like this local, in need meetup. You found a need in your local market to what it is now.
I mean, I think this came up again with a point of frustration for Jamie and I, because when we met, virtually, and then I would visit, we would see properties, talk to brokers, take them out to lunch, and it was great. They were accepting the invitation, and then that was it. Right. So we felt like we were not having enough experience for them to we were not credible. So it's like, let's take some action and bring people around to talk about what we do and what we're learning. And we were not trying to be gurus. We wanted to get in front of people who were doing the same thing as us, and to help us like find deals. And this is exactly what happened. After 2 or 3 meetups, this couple came to us, and that's kind of how everything started. I'll let Jamie talk about like the brand in general, because he's really passionate when he talks about that.
I am. So we the benefit of us living in 2 geographic locations was sort of like the first idea to replicate it, right? So we did it in Michigan. We had some success. We were building this Facebook platform. We were doing these little like virtual sessions or whatever. It's like, well, hey, if it's working here, why not do it down in your market too, Ben? It just expands the reach, and so we did. And I think so we have 3 core values with this whole thing. We use the more, if I can point to it, the more part of multifamily and more. It's give more, be more, and do more. And, it's sort of like give more is contribution, abundance mindset, be more is around personal development, and do more is just, hustle. So I think those 3 values, as we displayed them in these 2 groups now, resonated with people in other markets who were thinking, hey, there's not really a multifamily specific meetup in my market. I've been thinking about starting one, but you've obviously done something here. You figured something out. So can you help me do it? And we would say, sure, we can. And here's a process. You can follow it if you want. And most people would say, I do want to follow this process, and I want to be part of your community, because I think those values resonated with everybody. I mean, you guys can speak to that. So that's what kind of made it take off. It wasn't intentionally like, hey, let's just expand. It was sort of, okay, South Florida and Michigan work. I forget, maybe Cleveland next. Somebody in Cleveland was like, hey, I kind of like it. Can we? Yeah, sure. Let's do it there. We kind of built it there. And then, another market. And then it became, wow, all right, we need to, we sort of like let the horse or the cart before the horse a bit. So we're like, all right, let's build like processes, systems, a structure for this whole thing, which we're still doing as we expand here and there. But yeah, I think I honestly think that there's 2 things in play. One is multifamily is much more popular. Most meetups, as everybody knows in their market, are not multifamily. And if you go to a regular real estate meetup, there's rarely any, if maybe 1 or 2 people that have any focus on multifamily. In fact, most of them call multifamily a duplex, right? Like, it is, but it's not, right? So I think that's point 1. And then point 2 is when we entered the market with our meetup, the timing being right, and started to demonstrate those values I mentioned. I think that was the sort of the part that said, hey, I want to start a meetup, but I want to tie in with you guys, because most people, or everybody that we have that's running these groups, and most people that consume, that's what they like. They like the personal development piece. They like the abundance mindset, that whole thing. So yeah, I think that's really what's caught fire for us.
I really think something that resonates with people is being authentic and growing organically. Like there's nothing we fake. We don't know everything, and we've been this way since the beginning. And people appreciate that, because you're all of a sudden you're on the same level, and it's really about taking what other people have knowledge and just sharing and growing together. That's just what we want to do. So
that's a good point, because like you guys have credibility in the multifamily space when you started Honolulu Multifamily More, because you had property, but we didn't when we started. We had nothing, and we're still building. We still, like Ben said, we're a couple deals under our belt, and we're growing. But meeting 1, we said, hey guys, we're here to learn and meet people. That's it. We're not the experts. At that point, we might've been a chapter ahead of most, because we had a credibility book, thanks to the Wheelbarrow Profits community. Mm-hmm. We had done some broker meetings, that kind of thing, which everybody in the room hadn't done. So, okay, well, we can help you with that. We've done a couple things, but we weren't your 1,000 unit operator or even 20 unit operator. We were brand new. And a lot of people that start these groups, I think before they did, had the idea, I'd love to do it, but what credibility do I have? And we coached them through that mindset, and we didn't have any credibility, and look at the success we're having, which I think also gave people some incentive to kind of go on with our brand, if you will, when they started a meetup.
Yeah, the Multifamily More definitely was very disruptive, and where I came from, the meetups that I came from when I was in Bay Area, when I lived in Bay Area, California, They're your standard RIAs, and they're cool at first. And then you just get tired of shelling out $20, $30, $40, $50 every Friday night to get, something pitched to you that is not in your niche, right? So they're very much a, revenue generator for whoever is hosting that RIA. At least that's my experience. I went to 4 or 5 of them pretty regularly. And like every time I would go, it'd be, like I said, $20 and have some guy pitch to me about note buying. I'm like, I don't care about note buying. I don't care about flipping house, bankrupt or pre-foreclosures, right? Or any of these strategies that we had to pay to pitch for. So I got really tired of that, and I just stopped going. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it on my own. I'm going to read my own books. I'm going to, network online and figure it out myself. And then, seeing the multifamily more, where there is no pitching, it's just, that abundance mindset really, like I said, resonated with me. And I was like, definitely want to be part of that. I want to be on that side of it where I can, give to other people without having like the, oh, you have to give me $20 to get this information or whatever. So that's what really drove me to
It's funny. That's that experience. It's a great point. That experience I hear everywhere, and it's exactly why one of the reasons why we started it here. RIA meeting locally, $20 to go. It's an hour-long pitch about like their turnkey company, which I have no interest in doing. One guy there does multifamily does multifamily, and then I was there with that interest. It was dry, boring, and I had to pay for it. Whereas our meetups, we haven't charged for a meetup in any of our locations. We give out a ton of content, a ton of information wherever possible. And so it was sort of the anti-RIA, if you will, which almost sounds like some sort of like stomach relaxing thing. And the anti-RIA. That's us. Multifamily and More, the anti-RIA.
That's awesome. Sound bites. All right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I just want to say thank you, for both of you for creating this thing. And I'm super excited to be part of it, and thankful, I'm very grateful to be part of it, and excited to see where it takes us. You said 7,000 strong. I've already know that, we've gotten some attention by some big names that we're seeing, how much traction you're getting. And that's just fuel for the fire to know that you're doing something right and you're adding some serious value.
Appreciate that. Thank you two guys. You guys do an amazing job out there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's thanks to people like you that, it's not Jamie and I, it's all the people, like all the leaders that are putting, great content, that are being there to help, people locally. And then we try to tie it all together with the nationwide kind of podcast and everything. So it's really, really a group effort. It's a lot of fun. It's just, we're both passionate. Just Jamie shows it a little more because I don't have a lot of facial expressions, but
yeah. All right. Now we're getting all mushy and stuff like that. So let's get back on track. So for I'm going to skip that question. So for asset management, let's see what, I know you guys said you're about to transition to third party. Let's flip that question to, what systems are you using to either, you can take it for your real estate business or the multifamily more, just what kind of systems, what kind of technologies are you employing to help, be that force multiplier for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of which angle to go with. Ben, you're more the back end guy. Do you want to take multifamily and more? Or do you want to take, because I feel like the property itself, system wise, properties themselves, we use Buildium. And within that, there's some technologies that we leverage, like e-leasing. We've got some emails that we pre-format and send out at the point of leases being turned. But on multifamily and more, we're starting to leverage technology around, engagement ratios in Facebook groups. Do you want to touch on some of this stuff?
Well, we're just starting to put that together now that we have a bunch of data coming in. It's just a matter of organizing data to then, make the right decisions and make sure we're going in the right path. It kind of helps when you were talking about asset management. It's management in general. When you can get that data and put it in the right order and get these valuable numbers to see this is working, this is not working, we want to do more of this, and this is how we're going to do it. it just works well. So I'm a big fan of Monday.com. This is something I use, and I talk about it to Jamie probably every day. I use it for my turnkey business. We're starting to use it for Multifamily and More. I even have like my personal stuff on there. It's a glorified Excel spreadsheet, like really spreadsheet on steroids. And it's great for a lot of the work we do. Like Jamie's in Michigan, I'm here in South Florida. Everyone we work with is in a different place, and it's a great collaboration tool. They now actually integrated Zoom integrations into, so you have like specific boards with team members, and you can launch a Zoom call right from there. Zoom would be another platform that obviously, it's pretty obvious right now. Great piece of technology to just keep communication open and organize meetings. But yeah, Monday.com would be like really the biggest for me.
It's a great point. Yeah, we've leveraged that, assign tasks and other timelines, that sort of stuff. And then we're starting to try to farm out like some of our social media marketing. We've hired a firm for that called Invested Talent. So they're taking care of, video editing, scheduled posts, managing our various portfolios or various profiles on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. We've experimented with TikTok, right? Because of what some of the work they've done. So yeah, we're starting to farm that stuff out. In the past, we've used systems like Podio or whatever, but we've come to Monday. That's Ben's passion. He loves Monday.com, and it works really well. So we've leveraged that to build the brand. And like I mentioned before, we're working now on some engagement metrics, which you guys will see soon. Some engagement metrics for the Facebook groups, for the community, so that everybody can see, okay, well, you have this many members. How many are actually engaged? What's that ratio look like? What kind of interaction strength or weakness are you having with the posts that you have, with the community that you have? So we've got some really cool metrics that we'll be publishing soon. So that'll probably prompt some competition maybe between chapters, which is kind of cool, friendly, of course. But it'll give you a good sense of what your community looks like from a full-on engagement perspective. So we're excited about some of that stuff.
Nice. All right. So you already talked about VA's investment. Ruben over at Invested Talent.
That's him.
We started to use him as well.
Yeah.
Way over my head. So Duke, he's taking care of that stuff. I'm not the marketing person at all in the group. So I guess, my last question would be then, what is your favorite ninja trick? So the standard question is, what is your favorite ninja trick for increasing NOI by either increasing income or decreasing expenses? And again, you can take that to the property, or you can take it to your thought leadership platform of what's your favorite ninja trick for growing your brand, your platform. One
of each. Ben, what do you got? Start with you.
If we want to talk about the platform, I'm going to go back to just being authentic, and it's a trick that's natural. Like everyone, it comes naturally to everyone. You just have to accept to be who you are and to be authentic, and to not tell people that you're something you're not. It's really easy, and that's what is working for us. On the property side, we like to work on expenses, and there was a great little snippet from you, by the way, that said, expenses are better than income. Like $1 of expenses, that's what you're going to get to keep in your pocket if you save that. Whereas income, you always have something that's tied to that. So working on expenses, we had some really, really stupid, easy things when we picked up the property. Leaking toilets, that's an easy fix. Like your water bill goes down significantly, things like that.
Yeah, on the so I'll go ninja tricks. Ben covered the platform. We're big on fees over where we can. Fees over deposit. So like we do pets, right? So we have a pet deposit that's non-refundable. So that increases our NOI for those that bring pets in. It's a one-time fee. We've done some work with on the expense side, like just calling vendors to renegotiate values. And on this property, we just renegotiated by partnering up with a neighboring property for
management,
lawn and snow service, right? So we've cut a couple $100 a month out of our expense line as a result of partnering with them and getting a broader contract between the two properties. So little things like that. I don't think we have a go-to yet. I don't think we're established enough, but we tend to look, and again, our partners do a great job with this. We tend to look at those small little cuts that we can make on the expense side, leveraging scale where we possibly can, and going from there. So we have some other thoughts in the pipeline, but nothing we put in play yet. So I don't want to claim them yet, but those are the biggies right now.
Nice. Yeah, I'm big on the water. That's my number one thing. First thing I do as soon as we take over is have all the toilets inspected, all the shutoff valves inspected, and replace all that stuff, because more often than not, they're leaking. Most landlords don't even think to look at that thing unless it's like a super gross leak. But like a steady drip in a toilet, could be a couple $100 a month, just literally down the drain.
Absolutely.
That's one of the first things I do. I do water conservation devices, like the aerators in the faucets and the low flow shower heads, stuff like that. And it drastically lowers the water bill right out of the gate. The return on it's usually like 1 or 2 months, and you're at break even for that expense. So I'm all about it. All right. Well, I think that's it for me.
All right. So shifting gears, what is the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Oh, good. I'm glad you ask it that way. That's good. Go ahead, Ben. Do you have one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I got two, and one I read recently. So my most recent book, and Vince, this is close to your heart. I mentioned it already. Is Never Split the Difference. I think that book is
It is close to my heart.
Fantastic. I know it is.
It's right there. There it is.
I don't know where mine is. I usually have it. I don't know what I did with it, but I could see myself rereading, or at least reading the summary of that book annually. Like there's some great tactics in there, and he does a great. I want to take his masterclass. I want to go through his courses, right? Because I can see, and I've already leveraged, like even with she's in the other room, with my wife, I've already leveraged things like mirroring and labeling to get my way, if you will, like to get her
more in trouble.
I do, but I get more information, and it allows me to kind of okay, all right, now I understand a bigger picture, and I can figure out where I need to go within this scenario. But I've done it a few different times, not to the level that I want to yet, because again, I just read it and it's got some really, really clear tactics in there. So I love that book. The other one I recommend all the time, and I love it, is called Outwitting the Devil. It's a Napoleon Hill book. I don't know if you guys have heard or read it.
Yeah.
But fantastic book in terms of just getting at the story behind Think and Grow Rich. So Think and Grow Rich is a great story. Hearing kind of Napoleon Hill's story, as he's writing Think and Grow Rich, and some of his learnings, and just the way the book was written, to me is very interesting in this interview with the devil. But that book, teaching you what the true kind of devil's work is I think a fantastic book to read as far as mindset goes. Looks like
my prized possession. Nobody listening to this will see it, but there you go. So I got a 1935
wow
autographed. Right, there it is.
Really?
Signed. Yeah. So when we hit $1 million assets under management, this was my gift to myself, was a 1935 edition of Think and Grow Rich signed.
That's crazy, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Put it back in the
It's
bag.
a really, really, really important book to my life right there, is how much this changed my life.
Yep. That guy, Hill, his writings, that book, and the other one I mentioned, Outwitting the Devil, he's, it really does teach you the power of your mind over. I mean, that's what the basis of all of this stuff is. All four of us start with that. Anybody in our space, any of the big guys that we talk to, they start with mindset. Gino, Rod Cleave, any of these guys, right? So, I agree, it's foundational. So sorry,
one that helped. One that helped me a lot with social skills in particular was How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's kind of the same concepts of marrying.
I love that.
That was a really big one for me.
That is so. I am a teacher. I'm an educator for the military, and I give that book out as like required reading. To at least 200 people, because a lot of my people, airmen, right? We're in the Air Force. A lot of the airmen I give that to are like 18, 22-year-old, usually just leaving home, first job type thing. And I'm like, this is your playbook for life. I'm like, it's the absolute like example of don't judge a book by its cover, because they read the cover and be like, what? I don't, how to win friends. I'm not some kind of, loser. And I'm like, please just give it a chance. If you need to rip the cover off so you don't feel stupid, read it. Like, I absolutely love that book. Never Split the Difference.
Mhm.
I have that tabbed out and highlighted, and I go back at least once a year and do a refresh. And I don't think I have it here. I think it's on my desk at work, like sitting right next to my phone. That way I can have it like on standby. That's absolute gold. Those two books, How to Win Friends and Influence People and Think and Grow Rich, I've given those out more than any other book to anybody.
Yeah. Great books. Was that Carnegie?
Yeah.
Carnegie, Dale Carnegie. Yep.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. So what is your favorite travel destination?
Ben's a traveler. Go for it.
I like anywhere where it's hot, so I like where I live, and I like the Caribbean. That would be my go-to destination.
My wife's from the Caribbean, so I would say that's our favorite place to go. She's from the Dominican. We go there. We try to go there often, and it's going to be probably we were going to go this summer. I don't know if that's going to happen now, but definitely love the Dominican Republic to check out and go to. But have goals at some point of touring Europe with my wife. That's a passive income goal, actually, is to get to that place where we can just go for a month, 2 months, 3 months, literally pick the landing port and not plan the rest. Just we're going here, and then whenever we decide to come home, buy a ticket from that spot. That's a goal. Maybe we'll stop in Nice, Ben. We'll see the Malige family.
Do that. My family's not over there, so you have fun.
Never mind then. Never mind.
All right. So as we wrap up, do you have any requests for our audience, and how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can check us out, multifamilyandmore.com. You can go to youtube.com/multifamilyandmore for all of our video content. We've got a great quick hit playlist on there where if you don't want to listen to a half hour interview right away, you can catch a 2-3 minute segment on there just to get a sense of if you want to consume the whole thing. So youtube.com/multifamilyandmore. And on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything is at Multifamily and More. Check us out on any of those platforms. Ben, I miss any of them?
I don't think so.
I think I got them all.
Yep.
You can email Ben at no, I'm just kidding.
You can. We do have for any request, if you have an interest to be a group leader, to have a group in your location, you can do that at info@multifamilyandmore.com. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, honor, true honor.
Wow, dude, that show was pretty awesome. It's always great sitting down with Jamie and Ben. Definitely dropped some knowledge and key takeaways for me, the golden nuggets. We're definitely the leveraging human capital. A lot of people worry about or think about how to leverage their funds, but a lot of people fail to worry about how to leverage either themselves or through partnerships to maximize their efficiency and their productivity. So Jamie and Ben, not only are they out-of-state investors, they're also an out-of-state partnership with Benoit being in Florida, Jamie being in Michigan. They're still making it work. They're still not only have an effective and growing real estate business, but also the Multifamily More brand as well across 18 different states now, or at least 18 different chapters. It is pretty amazing. Also, I took special note of Jamie's points there on, stop worrying about what your weaknesses are, find out what your strengths are, really hone in on the things you're good at and things you like doing, and maximize all your effort, put all your effort into those skills and those tasks, and then find a partnership that complements your weaknesses. And that's what Jamie and Benoit did. And they're really a strong partnership, and they've done amazing things in just a short amount of time, only 2, maybe 3 years, on what they've achieved and what they've grown to and scaled is pretty amazing.
And if you're interested in connecting with us, go to tricityequity.com to learn more. To connect with like-minded investors, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. And if you found value in this podcast, please subscribe and give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. And if you know anyone who might resonate with today's podcast, please share the episode with them. See you next time.